Alrighty. Oh, that might have blown out the mic a little bit. Yeah, we are in a different room, but you might have actually seen that from the previous video journal. Whoa, okay. Let's collect my thoughts here. Let me see if I can put this in my chain again. I apologize for the ear discomfort that I might have caused, but yeah, we are here in the UK, settled, finally. Had my first day back. Went to class today. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to my first two that were mega early. They were at... Sorry, I'm kind of using my... You know what? Let me just show you my setup. It's my video journal. I can do whatever I want. Oh, this might be a little complicated, but... This is my setup right now. We're working on a project right now. My political sim thing that I'm working on. I don't know if I want to show too much, but yeah, that's what we're working on, or at least that's like the force graph. Wow, why is it so laggy? Shouldn't be. Should be pretty smooth. Okay, anyways, and yeah, this is my standing desk, so I'm kind of using that as a tripod. I got my tripod right there, but I just thought it'd be easier to use that as the tripod. Anyways, that's what we're up to. Sorry, my computer I picked on the fan there. Maybe it's because we started using the sim. But if I turn off the fan, it should get a lot quieter. It's not turning on, or it's not turning off. Might be off, I'm not sure. Okay, anyways. Yes, today was the first real day. My classes were really early today. I had a 9 a.m. and a 10 a.m. That might not sound really early, but I was probably okay to go to the 10 a.m. It's just, I can't bring myself to commute to a lecture just for one lecture. It feels like such a waste of time. So I don't know, end up doing that. But I'm hopefully gonna make it for my 10 a.m. tomorrow. I believe I can do that. As long as I go to bed on time and it's 10:50 p.m. So here's hoping to that. I can't help but notice that my skincare is not doing too hot, or my skin's not doing too hot. I'm not enjoying that. I think I have to pick up a good skincare routine. But anyways, this is a lot of yap. I didn't want to make a short video journal again because I feel like I kind of owe myself to do a bigger video journal today. And I actually forgot to start recording with my journal. Should be here, oh, it's on my desk. Ugh, my apologies. Anyways, oof, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of this setup. Okay, and I'm kind of sitting very close to the camera. Oh, I know why. Here we go. Sorry, kind of discombobulated. If this is a real video, I would have cut all of this out, but it's a video journal, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, we have a list of topics to cover. And I feel like the first one I want to cover, and the one I'm going to cover in this journal, is the topic of love begets love. Now, the other day, I was thinking about this topic at night before bed, and I wrote a little something. Now, I have some thoughts on this topic that I would like to share, but I think it would be beneficial to start off by reading this. There's this thing I do. I know I have an issue with filler words, and I speak a lot, and I speak quickly, generally, typically. And I have this habit of repeating myself and adding words that are synonymous and practically replacements next to each other in sentences, but whatever. And I'm trying to fix this behavior. Now, the way I am trying to fix this behavior is by speaking more purposefully. I'm trying to improve not the capital, but the value of each word that comes out of my mouth. I'm trying to be more intentional with my speech. And I believe to accomplish this more intentional speech, I have to take these pauses, as you just saw, to think about the words that I want to use more. This isn't necessary. I don't think I am inherently a bad speaker. I know I had a video journal the other day that I've been thinking about, or that I'm kind of insecure, not insecure, but that I'm not very happy with the level of eloquency or ability I have at turning my thoughts into words. I'm starting to think that that might be more of a mental thing. So it might just be that I'm not structuring my thoughts as well. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is. But I don't think typically I do have an issue. I think I come across like I am capable of expressing myself properly. I just really want to improve the value. I mean, I just see so many great public speakers speak, and I'm so, again, this is repeating the other journal, but I'm so at awe at their ability to generate so much value in every word they use. That's something I'm trying to work on. So that kind of explains the pauses. I don't have to be pausing, and I normally don't. It's very rare that I do pause in my normal speaking. But that's almost like writing as if you're just trying to maximize your words per minute, right? As if you're just trying to write. Now, of course, good will come out of that, but hopefully through putting more effort and intentionality into every word that I use, I am able to keep that speed in future whilst gaining more quality, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's been a lot of time on that topic. Love begets love. Let me read the entry I wrote. It's very short. It's very short, but might be interesting. Again, I'm reading. I start, this is kind of meta. For the Love Begets Love journal, talk about how you treat your plushies with love. Inanimate objects are deserving of love as well. And in quotes, bro, what? That makes no sense. The objects didn't do anything to deserve that love. Maybe not, but you deserve it. Love is not a zero-sum game. The more love you manage to share with the world, both external and internal, the more love you will find looking right back at you. Love isn't something you give or receive, for it is not limited or tangible. The world is your mirror, for in it you will see yourself reflected back. Even if you reject solipsism, you cannot disagree with the notion that all of reality is filtered through your mind. When you listen to happy music and look around, suddenly people start to appear a little happier. And the same thing happens with sad music. You aren't changing the inherent reality outside of your mind, but the reflection you see in it has changed. The more you fill that world with love, the more love you will see reflected back at you. This is not edited. This is not reread. This was written in a very tired state, just trying to word or just mental dump into my phone in a somewhat coherent way. So I hope that comes across as somewhat coherent. But I want to spend some time talking about this. Now, throughout reading that, my mind kept putting pins on everything I was reading. It was like, oh, wait, I should talk about this. Oh, I should talk about this. So I'm going to start with the last pin that my brain created. When you listen, I'm going to add paragraphs here so I can kind of parse through it a little easier. When you listen to happy music and look around, suddenly people start to appear a little happier, and the same thing happens with sad music. I was at the airport, Gatwick Airport, flying to London, 3 flights ago maybe, or 3 trips from Gatwick to London. To Lisbon. And I was sitting, if you know Gatwick South Terminal, I believe, where the train station is. I was sitting past security. I was sitting at the gates. Not at the gates, but I was sitting at, the big common area, whatever. And I was sitting on the top floor and I was looking down. And I could see people, walking in to their gates, standing in the middle, talking, whatever. And I took that opportunity to people watch. Now, I remember the first time I kind of came into contact with the idea of people watching was in the US on my first year. And I knew two people that said they loved sitting outside of the coffee shop and watching people go by and just watching people exist. And I remember the first time I heard that idea, it felt so alien to me. It was like, what are you getting out of this? Like, they're not doing anything that interesting that you don't normally, do. And I don't know, it felt very boring to me. But ever since then, I've had the pleasure and the gift of being in positions where I was presented with the opportunity to people watch. And, I gave it a try, and this is one of the moments where I gave it a try. Of course, I've done a little bit of people watching back in my day before this moment, but this is one of these moments that are like core memories to me almost. And I remember sitting there and watching. This is such, there's another moment. Dude, people watching is amazing, okay? If you haven't people watched, highly, highly, highly recommend you do, because there's another amazing story I have. Which, it's my video journal, so I might as well discuss it here, but like right now. Anyways, let's talk about this. No, let's talk about that one first. Hold on, let me put this away for a second. Okay, I was at the airport, and now this is Lisbon to Gatwick, and I was sitting at my gate, people watching. Now, normally, I like to be productive in these downtime moments, or maybe watch some YouTube or listen to some music, but who am I kidding? Listening to music it's so weird. I can't do something that only requires one sense unless thinking is involved. So like I can no, because I guess writing is touch, but it's not touch, whatever. I digress. I was sitting down, listening to music, and I was people watching. And I saw a father walk with what I presume is his daughter. Couldn't have been more than 8 years old. She had this little pink jumper on and this pink suitcase. It was this big, right? It was like one of those little kid rolling bags, whatever. This big, but it was half her size. Anyways. And I was watching them pass by. And I just had this intense anti-solipsistic moment. So for those of you who don't know, and I'm saying this not just because I'm expecting people to watch this, but it's good to practice. It's good practice to explain things that you know. It helps internalize them more, right? It's a Feynman technique, I believe. That's for learning things, but I digress. Solipsism is the idea that you are at least the only conscious being that you can prove. And you're not sure that anyone else is conscious, anyone else exists. Right? These could all be it's like the Matrix, right? These could all be NPCs. That's what solipsism is, right? I can only prove my own consciousness in my mind. I don't know, actually, I'm not sure about this. I don't know if it directly involves you believing that nobody else is conscious. I think it's just that you don't know if other people are conscious, which is, you know what? I think it's unintuitive, but also intuitive in some respect. I think at its core it is intuitive in the sense that we literally don't, all right? We only perceive the world through our minds. We are not directly, intimately aware what other people's consciousness is, right? We can only observe and detect similar patterns to what we do, right? Empathy, that's what basically creates this consciousness, empathy, or that's what allows us to feel that other people are conscious empathy, right? We relate them to ourselves. And we say, listen, this guy kind of talks like me, this guy kind of acts like me. He probably has, or they probably have the same inner mental models and inner workings of my mind. This also raises another concept, which I've probably discussed in these video journals, called Humanization, right? The idea that the people. I heard about Humanization a while ago, and maybe I've completely changed the meaning in my mind. So this might not be Humanization, but it's this idea that the people closest to you are more human. And human, in this sense, kind of means like person, right? They're conscious. At least that's my understanding of it. That's the way I see it. But you have your like main bubble, you and like the 5 closest dudes to you or whatever, and you're like, yeah, these people are for sure conscious. Like I've experienced enough experiences with them that I can kind of relate back to my own empathy. So I can project the consciousness onto them. And then as you get further and further and further apart, I don't really, like, I haven't talked to this dude, but honestly, I don't know if this guy's conscious. And then you get to a point where, you have the whole idea of like, there can be a train accident in India and 50 people die versus one car accident right outside your house. And the car accident right outside your house will sit in your mind a lot harsher or a lot deeper than that train accident in India, presuming that you're not Indian or near India or Asian in any sense, right? I'm talking like from a Western white boy. Anyways, that's that concept of infrahumanization. And, we have this idea, or empathy works as this mechanism where it allows us to humanize other people, right? We see other people act and we're like, oh, like I've done that before. You're probably like me. Anyways, that's what creates that content. Empathy is projection at the end of the day, right? We're projecting our own experiences onto other people and we're trying to infer things from those, or deduce. Infer, deduce, I'm not sure if I'm using those words right, but infer these experiences from other people. So empathy is just a very complicated form of projection. Maybe not complicated, just it's a form of projection. Anyways, so I was projecting onto this father and daughter that were walking in front of me, and I saw them for maybe 10, 15 seconds. I'm not sure. I was trying to calculate in my mind, but I kind of forgot. I stopped counting at 2 seconds. Anyways, I was observing them for the little walk that they did in front of their brief little walk. And I was looking at them and I was like, just had this deep anti-solipsistic moment. Dude, look at that. I think we've fully come back to the beginning. In this case, anti-solipsism is the idea that they're like really conscious. Like I can almost feel their consciousness, right? This deep moment of empathy that was purely constructed within my mind. I wasn't observing anything that wasn't all around me, right? And it's not like the spiritual connection that I gained to these people. Honestly, I think people use spirituality a lot to replace things that they're not that they're not aware of how it works. Does that make sense? Like I think like 90% of spirituality can be replaced with physics or psychology or whatever, and the rest is just truly just beyond human understanding. But I didn't have this spiritual or energetic connection. Well, everything's energy, but whatever. I didn't have this spiritual moment, but something in my mind felt deeply connected to these people. And I just imagined, like, again, all of this is fake. I don't even know their names. Like, I don't know if they existed from before I started, like, witnessing them, right? Before they came into my eyes. And I'm not even sure if they exist, right? I might be hallucinating all this, but assuming I'm not, and assuming they are real people, and they've had real lives, which is how I felt in the moment, it just blew my mind that this father probably has deep love for his daughter. And I have experienced love, right? I feel like most people, hopefully, have experienced love in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know, I feel love, right? I'm trying to like bring love into my life. I'm trying to feel it. Just like you can feel anger or happiness or whatever. And I try to imagine being that father and having those emotions for his daughter. And just waking up in the morning and having that person in your life. I'm not saying I want a daughter specifically, but putting myself in his father's shoes or in their father's shoes and waking up and being like, okay, I have to feed her. Thinking of breakfast. Maybe you're just going through your routine, but I go through routines too, right? Just this idea of sharing space with that couple is so strange. I'm not, this is like a, oh, you're having your first thoughts or whatever. But you realize other people are conscious too. But I think it's deeper than that. And I think this isn't something that we experience every day. And I'm trying to be more conscious of this every single time. But this man brushes his teeth every day, like me, showers, eats, shits, pisses, all the basic things that we probably all do. But he also does everything else. This man has ambitions. This man has dreams. This man probably has dreams that he didn't accomplish, but he also has love in his life that a lot of people envy. This man probably is worried sometimes when he's not with his daughter, or he's worried if he's going to be able to create the future that he thinks she deserves. He probably looks at other people in public and thinks, man, are they think I'm kind of fat? Like, is this guy looking at my tummy right now? Does my shirt match my jeans? This man probably looks around, and maybe even to me, he didn't look at me, but he looks around and he probably constructs what I'm doing to other people at a lesser degree, right? He looks at people and thinks, wow, they're judging me, or wow, they think my hair isn't nice, or whatever. It's incredible, and I think it's worthwhile and important to recognize that we are all human at the end of the day. And that humanity comes with certain things. There's stuff that comes with a humanity. And where am I going with this? This stuff is almost universal, and I think we ignore this stuff a lot, this consciousness, this experience, the sheer amount of memories this man has had. Another interesting thing is he is a collection of history, right? That's probably over his 30s, probably over 40s. The lifetimes this body has witnessed, right? The amount of people that have been in this person, not in a weird way, but in a sense of, the amount of, lifetimes this guy's had, the amount of people he has been. I wonder how many times he's cried. I wonder how many times he's felt genuine rage. And I wonder how many times he's felt joy. But genuine, pure, unadulterated joy. I wonder how many times he's dreamt. It's just incredible. It's incredible that after he left my cone of vision, my field of view, he's carried on to live. He's gone to bed. He has woken up. He has eaten. He has shitted. He has pissed. And he has felt love, hopefully. And hopefully he hasn't felt too much sadness, too much anger, too much loss. I don't think I'm capable of putting this into words, but it's just, human mind is so incredible. And every single time you interact with someone else, you get a part of it. You get the smallest, tiniest fraction of insight into that human mind, and yet we claim to know things about it. Sometimes I have this my day-to-day, probably at the gym the most, because I feel like that's when spend the most time close to people, in class sometimes too, but persistent, distanced, with like the barrier of interaction. This is where I spend the most time consistently with another person with a barrier of interaction between us. So not talking to them, but existing in the same space. Class and probably the gym. And you construct these narratives in your mind, right, about what other people think. And I think there's this drive in humans, there's this natural urge or this natural curiosity to think what other people are thinking, to understand what other people are thinking, right? Like, wow, I wonder if this person is a threat or a friend, right? I think there's just a natural social dynamic in humans. We're naturally social creatures, right? And I think a lot of times we construct these ideas, and to be honest, I sometimes worry, I look at other people and I think, like, what do they think of me? Because I think at the end of the day, we all want to be loved. We all want to be seen. And I think sometimes it's just, you want that so deeply. I don't know, you just hope that other people are thinking that way, but you're not sure. And I think that fear of not being seen, that fear of not being loved, and not loved in the sense of adoration or admiration, but human connection love, to be cared for, to be known, to be respected, the from, FROMM definition of love, like the 4 components of it. If you don't know what that is, Google it right now. Highly recommend it. We'll probably talk about it in a later video journal, but this is a natural human drive. And, we worry. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I don't think it's just me, right? And I think part of me is so happy, like truly, truly, truly happy that other people get to experience happiness, get to experience love. Like, I really like being happy, like, I really like loving. These are things that make me love life, right? These are things that fill me with fulfillment, with all these like positive short-term and long-term emotions, right? Just not just hedonic in the short term, but truly eudaimonic, okay? Long horizon hedonic sort of Aristotelian fulfillment. And I just hope with all of my heart that other people feel the same way I do. And I see it almost as a duty to let others or help others feel the way I do sometimes. Not sometimes I feel that duty, but sometimes I'm fulfilled, right? Not all the time. We try to, improve every day, but that's one of my core drives, is really to ensure that I'm not the only one. And another part of me, and I'm super happy that other people feel that way, right? That really warms my heart. It fills me with this golden, happy, at peace, yellow. I'm just tossing words out there that, kind of help you understand how I'm feeling. But another part of me has also felt really deep pain. And And I hate the idea of other people feeling that too. Just the heartbreak, right? Not in a romantic sense, but in a human sense, right? It sucks, man. I hate that other people feel it too. I mean, I can only imagine how it feels for other people, but if it feels like anything, like it feels to me, then I want to make sure that they feel it as little as possible. And whoever it is, no matter what. I think we also have this habit of selectively humanizing and dehumanizing people. I just watched Game of Thrones. Big spoiler alert. Skip like 5 minutes if you want to skip it, okay? Because I don't know how long we're going to talk about this, but you've had your chance. 3, 2, 1. Chance is over. Daenerys, right? At the beginning, Daenerys has always been righteous, right? She always has this deep sense of justice. And she, wants to be the savior, and she wants to be the bringer of justice to the rest of the world. She believes she has to break the wheel, right? And rid the world of this evil curse of domination and the wheel of destruction, just grinding away at people. And I think all of us, most of us probably, would look at that and think of it as a virtuous thing. And I do. I think it's virtuous to want to end that suffering. But I think the deeper our mission, or the more strongly we feel about our mission, the easier it is to lose sight of it. In that quest to destroy the wheel, in that quest to bring joy to others, we look at the ones who bring pain as evil incarnate. They are no longer humans that belong to this world that is being destroyed and crushed by this wheel, by this Game of Thrones, said the name of the show based. But they're kind of disconnected. They're not human. They are perpetrators of this. They are creators of pain, of suffering. They are evil. And I think that dehumanization is intuitive. I think it's naturally built into us, right, biologically. You don't want to humanize your enemy because that'll stop you from fighting them. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm such a non-violent person, why I, don't like sparring against other people, or why I couldn't play rugby because I was scared of hurting my friends and stuff like that. Like, I have a deep sense of that. I have a deep sense of everyone is human at the end of the day, but we'll talk about this in a second. But I don't know, anyways, then it is no surprise that when she liberated the slaves of Marine, she created a mile and mile and mile long, I don't remember how long it was, but road of crucified slave owners. When I played Red Dead Redemption, at nighttime, I believe, or during the day, if you're walking through Louisville, is it called Louisville? It's definitely not Louisville. What's the city called? It's not Louisville. What am I talking about? That's Project Zomboid. When you're in Louisville, Kentucky, when you're in Red Dead Redemption, what's that city called? Damn. Whatever. When you're... I'm not going to be able to break it. Come on. Anyways, when you're in town, there's this guy who talks about eugenics. And he has this book that he's trying to sell. I think he's at his stand. And he keeps talking about eugenics. And he's incredibly racist. And traditionally, what Daenerys would probably consider the evil person. a bringer of pain. And intuitively, I do take some pride in this, but I don't take pride in it too because of what I'm about to say. But what I would do is I would just sit there listening to him, and after a while, I would just grab, this is all in a video game, Red Dead Redemption. I would never do this in real life, but I would grab my lasso, I would like tie it on him, and I would just ride the horse around. I would just drag him until he died, and I would feed him to the alligators. Awful, right? Like crazy. That is like serial killer. It's like, what are you doing? But then the fact that, you know, he is one of those bringers of pain, it kind of makes it okay, right? It's fine. He's an awful, degenerate human being, right? We see this all of the time with, I don't want to be the defender of them, but, you know, I don't know if I can say this without getting my YouTube shut down, but people who do bad things to unconsenting individuals and sometimes children, right? Like, they are the scum of the earth. And not to be a defender of those people, their terrible acts, which they are terrible acts. The act can be separated from the person, something I'm going to discuss here. And this is really hard to say because of the intuitive nature of our aversion, our hatred, and our disgust by these people. But what kind of human, what kind of person could ever be drawn to this? But at the end of the day, these are all humans. And humans are capable of the most disgusting and most horrifying atrocities. The stuff that happened in the early 40s in Europe, the stuff that happened all throughout Europe around those times, China, Asia, Japan, even America. You know, we've seen the evil that humans are capable of, the systemic crushing the wheel that Daenerys will talk about, right? We've seen that evil, and I think it is easy to look at that evil and want to rid of it, want to destroy it. But I think on the other hand, we also have to remember that humans are capable of such good, such beauty, and such life generation. I think some of the things that humanity has done have been atrocious. But I think a vast majority of the things that humanity has done has been absolutely bewilderingly beautiful. And of course, this is a societal level. And when we get to individuals, I think even the most evil and horrific people are capable of good, are capable of beauty, are capable of love. And there are certainly, and maybe, you know, these, the unconsensual individuals that I was discussing earlier, maybe they are fundamentally broken. Maybe they do have components of their mind or of their brain that don't function the same way the rest of our minds work. And that's a different story. I think you do lose some humanity there. I think this would be a whole free will and determinism conversation that probably has to happen at another point because this journal has been going on for a while. But to kind of circle back, kind of went on a tangent, to tie this all together, I just want to clarify something because I don't want to come across the wrong way. By no means does this justify any behavior. All evil is evil. The slave owners of Meereen committed acts of evil, without a doubt. Skip again, spoiler. It's so worth watching. Please don't spoil it for yourself. Please, trust me. This video journal isn't worth the entire series of Game of Thrones, okay? Trust me. Okay. Cersei's evil, or what happened to Cersei, doesn't justify all of the horrors that she perpetrated, right? Just because Cersei has done good doesn't mean the bad that she did was any less bad. These acts are still deplorable and must be treated as such. Just because the person who committed the act is human doesn't mean the act isn't bad. But we also have to revisit the way we see others. I'm not going to use the child example because that's an extreme example, and even me, I feel disgusted talking about it, like, intuitively. It's very hard to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the Game of Thrones. But the slave owners of Meereen were disgusting. I mean, enslaving people. I mean, I don't have to tell you how bad it is, right? Horrific. Transatlantic or in the show, they're both horrific. I'm not comparing them, right? Because the show's fake, but I'm not trying to say that, but whatever. All these acts are horrific. But I don't believe that excuses us to strip the humanity away from these people. I believe doers of evil can also be human. And as soon as we become the arbiters of who and what is human, based on how we feel about them, I'm specifically drawing a line or distinction between what I said about components, because I believe consciousness is like a byproduct of physical things, right? And humanity and the human mind is a physical construct. So it being altered does alter your humanity, kind of, in a sense. But again, I'm not gonna. Again, when I say human, I'm conflating with personhood. Obviously, you're always human if you have human DNA. That's it's a anthropology thing. It's a biological thing. But I'm talking about people here. Daenerys' ability to say, you're human, you're worth protecting, you are a follower of Cersei, you are evil at the end, right? You must die. That led to the atrocities that we witnessed. Now, I'm a big defender of the last season of Game of Thrones, besides The Long Night. Holy balls! That is the worst episode in any show I've ever watched, but we'll discuss it at a later point. Anyways, at the beginning, Daenerys, Varys, and Tyrion were my top 3 characters, at least when they got all together. I think that's the earliest I remember having a list at all, but they were my top 3. I love Tyrion and Varys because they are incredibly smart and they are driven by their hearts, and their hearts are in the right place. Varys wants to protect the realm, right? He wants to, which me and Varys, I might have my nuts, but me and Varys have a little, I see a little bit of myself in both Tyrion and Varys, but in Tyrion I see my height, and in Varys I see my testicle status, but in Daenerys I see my passion. I see justice. I see the pursuit of goodness. We have different definitions of goodness, but pursuit of goodness at all costs. And I love that. She is a fighter for justice. She is a fighter for good. And I cannot help but admire that. But I also recognize that Daenerys would be possibly the worst character in the show, but not in terms of worst written, but worst personality, like goodness-wise, right, morality-wise, she'd be the worst character in the show without Tyrion and Varys, or without Sir Jorah Mormont, or without the fucking guy who got swapped halfway for the guy from Hill House. what's his name? Anyways, Daenerys, without her stones, without her rocks, she would be terror, which is what we saw in the last season, right? You could tell it from the start that was going to happen. And I'm not saying that as a flex or whatever. I've never seen as a flex that you have the ability to understand what happens at the end of the show. I think you trying to see that ruins your experience because you might guess it. So I try to not do that, or at least not consciously do that. But anyways, Daenerys. I think when you become I think her destiny manifest kind of personality or belief system that she was the freer of the world, plus her mega drive for what she believed was good, but also thirdly her dehumanization or desire for destruction of anything that stood in her way. All of those three things created the worst possible thing that Westeros and probably the entire world has ever seen. But I think that applies to this too. There's a conversation I've had with a couple of people. I'm not gonna say who, but I'm not gonna tell you. But it's about Dubai, and they were saying Dubai's so sick because it's so safe, and they expressed sentiment, a couple of often, about wanting to be tougher on crime. For example, there's that El Salvador guy, I forgot, Bukele, saying, oh, Bukele based, whatever. And you know what, to end this crime, we just have to go on the streets and do things that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube to these people and end it once and for all. These people are animals, whatever. And I think that's really interesting because, you know, I'm sure some of them felt that way until the gun was pointed at them, all right? Like, my ops are subhuman, and they're awful, and they're animals, and we must kill them all. And then suddenly the people that, you know, you're pointing to with, right, the people standing next to you and pointing them at animals, they kind of turn to you and go, wait, are you sure you're human? And then you're like, wait, what? I thought we were fuck this guy, though, no? Like, we're homies, right? This guy's bad. And then they look at you and they're like, I don't know, bro. You also kind of seem sus. And then the gun gets pointed at you and you're also lined up, right? Walking to your death. I think the moment where we lose this standard, this baseline, which is something I never understood, like, for example, when I watched Superman or Batman, Batman's a little harder because he like paralyze people, but this idea that, oh, I will never kill, I'll never sink to that level. So it's been like stupid. It's like, wow, okay, like you can accomplish all these things, but you know you're holding yourself back by doing these things, which by you know by having these standards, this morality. But I think I understand as I get older. I understand it, which is, you know, it's not that you don't want to sink to their level. In terms of, oh, I want to be more moral. It's not that, but it's if you sink to their level, if you roll in the mud with them, you can't tell you and them apart. Right? You're both head to toe in mud. Your friends are head to toe in mud. Your enemies are head to toe in mud. Everyone looks the same. And I think when you get to that level, I don't know, I think it's a slippery slope, which some might call fallacious, but I mean, you see it in Game of Thrones, right? How quickly the ops can turn from slave owners to the free people of King's Castle, not the free people of King's Castle, but the you know, the 1 million residents of the capital. I think sometimes the worst harm to humans isn't hatred, right? But indifference. This idea that, you're fucking, you don't mean anything, right? I don't hate you, but you're a fucking animal. Like, I'm not going out of my way to save these fucking ants. I keep swearing a lot. I told myself I was going to stop doing that, but this loss of moral consideration, and I think that's one of the scariest things, and that's something that I think we really shouldn't do, because at the end of the day, all conscious beings are worth moral consideration. But personhood and stuff like that is another topic for another day. I think I started losing this at minute 30, and I think for the last 20 minutes I've just been yapping about random things. But this is all to say that even the worst people that you know are humans at the end of the day. And again, that doesn't justify what they do. I know most people struggle with separating that, but I don't know what to say. We didn't talk about love begets love. I read you my quote, which I'm going to do for the next video, because I really want to talk about this. And we started with the people watching thing, which I need to talk about tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know. I've lost my mind. I can't really talk about this anymore. For the last 20 minutes, probably ignore everything I've said. I probably haven't said anything that makes sense the last 20 minutes. My brain hasn't been working very well. I hope you can hear me well too. I've been like kind of mumbling and stuff like that. And I'm looking. Sorry, I keep looking over there because I'm looking at the mic, like lines or whatever. I'm seeing if it's picking me up properly. I might have to do a little bit of voice edit or audio editing here. But anyways. It's crazy, huh? That we're all conscious and we're all humans and stuff like that. Which, as a solipsist, intuitively, it's funny, I was like, everything I'm saying isn't making sense, and I'm still talking. Anyways. Oh boy, I'm just a boy, okay? I just want to speak and talk about the things that I think are important. Anyways, it's been fun. I felt emotional during the conversation, which I think is interesting. Because I don't know if I felt emotional in any of these past video journals. But I love you so very much. Truthfully, I do love you, and that's something we'll talk about tomorrow. I love myself, and I love life, and everything is so amazing and perfect. Even the cloudy skies today. They were a little palate cleanser from the sun, right? Every day can't be sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it has to be clouds and rain, and I think that is beautiful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the cloudy skies. But anyways, this has been a great conversation, at least just over half of it, but I love you so very much, and thank you for spending time with me. I want to do a little bit of programming before going to bed, but it's like 11:45 already, and I'm kind of gassed out. I'm kind of tired. This might seem lazy. It might seem like I'm not doing much, but it is mentally draining. But yeah, that's been it for this, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.